What is ethics as a whole? Ethics are rules of morality based on reason. And there are two types to consider in ethics. The human action, which is voluntary, is with knowledge and consent, while acts of man is involuntary.
So what is moral standards and non-moral standards? Moral standards and non-moral standards are fundamental ethical values, wherein moral standards can be forced to be followed by others free flow, wherein non-moral standards are standards by which we judge what is good or bad and right or wrong in a non-moral way. So non-moral standards are standards of etiquette, standards of law, standards of activities, and measure of duty.
So what are the four types of normative ethics? So the four types of normative ethics are as follows: virtue ethics, deontological ethics, consequentialist ethics, and liberal ethics. We have the three different normative theories. The first one is the utilitarianism, second one is deontological ethics, and virtue ethics is last. Virtue is a golden mean between the extremes of excess and deficiency. Like for example, the situation is danger, the vice of deficiency is cowardice, while the vice of excess is foolhardiness.
Skepticism. What is skepticism? Skepticism is generally any questioning attitude or doubt towards one or more items of putative knowledge or belief. It is often directed at domains such as the supernatural, morality, religion, or knowledge.
What moral dilemma? What is moral dilemma? Moral dilemma is a state wherein you have two possible solutions to a specific problem or a event. So it's very hard to determine whether which is right or wrong, because it doesn't really solve a specific problem in a specific event. So in a moral dilemma, there are steps to solve it. The first step is to know if there is a moral conflict. Next is to know what values will clash. Next is discover who are the people to be affected. Fourth is to prioritize the values involved and rank them. Fifth is choose what values are important to uphold according to priority. Sixth is to come up with your decision. It is best to consult the views with others as well. And lastly, carefully implement your decision.
Another one is that moral standards are based on impartial considerations. And also, moral standards are associated with special emotions and vocabulary. That's it. The characteristics of moral standards. The first characteristic of moral standard is that it involves serious wrongs or significant benefits. The next one is that moral standards ought to be preferred to other values. Third one is that moral standards are not established by authority figures. It cannot be determined by authority figures and rules.
Defective norms of morality are theories or beliefs that are faulty and can be harmful. The defective norms are hedonism, utilitarianism, moral rationalism, moral positivism, moral evolutionism, and moral sensism, and communism. An example of a defective norm of morality is hedonism. Hedonism, a morality consistently prevalent through generations, engages in sensual pleasures. Whichever act that brings pleasure is deemed correct. Like this moral norm, it is faulty in the sense that excess pleasure can lead to long-term consequences. And this applies to all the other defective norms of morality where it's imbalanced and it can be harmful to others or to yourself.
Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism are ethical societies that has different ethical beliefs. There is no universal moral values, and there is no rational way of determining whether an action is morally right or wrong. This is what cultural relativism is all about. There are three theses that are included into cultural relativism. The first is the diversity thesis, relativity thesis, and lastly, toleration thesis. So now let's talk about St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas was a Catholic priest and was one of the most important medieval philosophers and theologians. Summa Theological is his most influential work that discusses man, which consists of three parts. Those three are God, ethics, and Christ. He also defined the four cardinal values as prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude.
Now, let's talk about the moral development stages. Moral development stages is written by Lawrence Kohlberg, and who is a Jewish American psychologist and is a close follower of Jean Piaget. These stages explain the moral reason. Moral development was principally concerned with justice, which he used moral dilemmas in order to experiment on subjects. Level 1, the first level, is actually pre-conventional. This actually focuses on punishment, avoidance, and obedience orientation. Exchange of favors, self-interest orientation. Exchange of favors, self-interest orientation. Level 2, however, is conventional, which focuses on the good boy, good girl image, interpersonal accord, and conformity. The last level, the level 3, is post-conventional, which is actually a social contract of orientation and focus on the universal ethical principles. As a whole, ethics as a subject is something you can learn about more of yourself rather than the world. It's more on your morality as an individual and how you would act and mature towards your environment and towards the people around.
For me, as a whole, ethics subject was a good way for me to apply all these ethical values in my future profession as a businessman. Through this, I have learned that ethical values are very important when you enter the business world. Also, it taught me different kind of moralities, and also taught me that I should be the one to adjust, and that I'll be encountering a lot of people with different ethical beliefs. So I'm very thankful that I have encountered this subject, and I know that this will be a big help for me in the future.
Ethics as a whole has helped me thoroughly discern between what is morally right and wrong, and sifting through social norms and identifying if it is truly right or wrong, regardless of how normalized the norm is.
Ethics as a whole helped me to become a better person in an ethical way. It helped me to make my decisions in life more clear.
Thank you, ethics.
Thank you, ethics.
Thank you, ethics.
Thank you, ethics.
Thank you, ethics.